This happened back in the late fall of 2024, right when the air in upstate Massachusetts turns razor sharp and the days bleed into pitch black by 5 p.m. I was 19, living in my very first off-campus studio apartment, a cramped, creaky third-floor walk-up with yellowing wallpaper, a radiator that hissed like a dying animal, and a view of an overgrown alleyway. It wasn't luxury, but it was mine, a raw, terrifying taste of independence. It was a Tuesday night. I was curled up on my thrifted couch, watching TV with a lukewarm bowl of ramen in my lap. Outside, the rain was coming down in sheeted deluges, pounding rhythmically against the glass. My phone buzzed on the coffee table. A notification popped up. An unknown account had followed my public Instagram. The handle was a random string of numbers and letters, M98311. I barely glanced at it. Being an openly gay guy on campus with a somewhat public social media presence, random blank accounts following me wasn't out of the ordinary. I swiped it away. Not even 2 minutes later, the phone vibrated again. A direct message request. Hey, you awake? I didn't recognize the handle, but I was always too polite for my own good back then. I typed back a simple, yeah, who's this? What started as polite, awkward small talk quickly turned uncomfortable. He asked if I was single, what my type was, and whether I lived alone. I felt a cold knot form in my stomach, but I rolled my eyes and brushed it off as just another desperate guy online. Then, he sent an image. I tapped to load it. It was a poorly lit selfie taken in what looked like the interior of a parked car. The lighting was sickly dashboard blue. A heavily built man in his late 20s, skin ghastly pale, with unkempt dark hair and a patchy beard. But his expression, there was no smile, no flirty pose. His eyes were wide, unblinking, staring with a vacant, predatory intensity straight into the camera lens. I didn't reply. I immediately backed out of the chat. Instantly, 3 messages flashed on my screen. You there? Wanna play truth or dare? Come on, don't be boring. Just as my thumb hovered over the block button, my best friend Marcus let himself into my apartment, shaking off his soaked jacket. I showed him the creepy messages, laughing off my anxiety. Being reckless college kids, Marcus grinned and said, "Screw it, play along for 5 minutes. Ask him something weird, then block him." I wish to God I hadn't listened. I typed fine, truth, or dare. He replied instantly. Truth, I asked. Why are you messaging me? The 3 dots appeared as he typed. Marcus and I leaned over the glowing screen, waiting for some crude joke or hookup line. The message popped up. Just wondering if the 3rd floor radiator in your apartment is always that loud, or if it only hisses when it rains. A cold wave of pure terror washed from the crown of my head down to my toes. Blood roared in my ears. I didn't post about my apartment. I had never posted my address, my building, or my floor. Marcus grabbed my phone, his face draining of all color. He sprinted to my window, pulled back the damp blinds, and looked down into the pitch-black alley below. Down on the street, standing directly under the flickering street lamp in the pouring rain, was a tall, bulky figure in a dark hoodie. He wasn't wearing a jacket. He wasn't holding an umbrella. He was just standing there, looking straight up at my 3rd floor window. In his hand, a phone screen glowed bright blue against his pale face. Marcus slammed the blinds shut. His eyes were wide with pure panic. Block him. Right now, he whispered, his voice trembling. My hands were shaking so violently I could barely swipe the screen, but I managed to hit block and set my account to private. We spent the rest of the night huddled in the living room, listening to every creak of the floorboards, waiting for the sound of someone picking the front door lock, but no one came. Months turned into 2 years. Life moved on. I turned 21, left the campus apartment, and rented a small suburban house with Marcus and 2 other guys near the edge of town. The memory of that night became a dark, distant story we occasionally retold at parties, until late last month, October 2024, I was sitting in my bedroom editing a video for my modest TikTok account when a notification flashed on my screen. An Instagram message request. My stomach dropped into a familiar, icy abyss. I opened it. It was a selfie. The same sickly dashcam lighting, the The same ghastly pale skin, the same wide, unblinking blue eyes. 2 years older, but undeniably him. I panicked and muted the app, tossing the phone onto my bed. That night, a roommate had a medical emergency that required us to rush to the ER, completely wiping the creepy message from my head. It wasn't until 3 days later that I remembered to check my inbox. When I opened Instagram, my chest tightened so hard I couldn't breathe. There were over 40 unread messages from him, sent continuously over those 72 hours. The messages swung wildly between needy intimacy, "I know you miss me," extreme aggression, "Why are you ignoring me, you ungrateful brat?" and horrifying sexual explicit photos. In one message sent at 3:14 a.m., he wrote, "I see you moved into a house with a backyard, nice glass doors." I snapped screenshots, blocked him, and privatized every single account I owned. But a week later, while casually checking my TikTok spam inbox, a message from an account with over 2,000 followers caught my eye. "Hey stranger." Thinking it was a follower, I asked who it was. He replied, "You blocked my Insta again. Did you really think changing your handle on TikTok would hide you from me?" I froze. My TikTok handle was completely detached from my real name or Instagram. I felt sick to my stomach. I yelled out loud, prompting my roommate to burst into the hallway. I typed my final warning. "If you contact me again, I'm going to the police." Then I blocked him. 3 nights ago, I was walking back from the local commuter rail station after having dinner downtown with friends. It was past 10 p.m. The streetlights flickered faintly against the thick New England fog, casting long, twisted shadows on the empty sidewalk. I heard it behind me, a steady, deliberate pacing. I stopped. The footsteps stopped instantly. I turned around, nothing but the fog and dark trees. I forced myself to keep walking, speeding up my pace. This time, the footsteps didn't stop when I paused. They accelerated. I whipped around, pulling out my pepper spray. Standing less than 10 feet away under a dying street lamp was the man. In person, he was massive, at least 6'3", towering over me in a stained navy jacket. His face was identical to the photos. Paper white skin, messy brown hair, and those hollow, unblinking blue eyes staring right through my soul. He smiled, a wide, unnatural grin, and whispered my full legal name in a raspy, sickeningly sweet tone. "Found you, sweetie." I screamed and sprinted like I've never run before. I sprinted into our residential complex, weaving through the dark alleyways, taking sharp corners to break his line of sight. I practically threw my body against my front door, frantically stabbing my key into the lock as I kept glancing over my shoulder, terrified I'd see his massive silhouette rounding the corner. I managed to get inside, slammed the deadbolt, and collapsed on the floor. Marcus and my housemates rushed over. My other roommate grabbed a baseball bat and ran outside, but the street was completely barren. The police were called. They patrolled the perimeter and advised me to file a restraining order, which I am currently processing with all the screenshot evidence. But deep down, I know a piece of paper won't stop him. How did he track my untagged TikTok? How did he know what train I was taking home that night? Was he watching me from the dark alley outside my house the entire time? I don't know the answers. All I know is that every time I hear a rustle in the bushes or a floorboard creak in the middle of the night, my heart stops. He's still out there. And I know he's just waiting for me to lower my guard again.